to get it going. Live.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 30th virtual meeting of the Historic Districts Review Board. Today we are September the 14th, 2021. May we have a roll call, please?
Chair Rios,
Here.
Vice Chair Katz,
Here.
Member Beachide.
Excuse.
Okay, thank you. Member Bienvenue,
Here.
Member Guida,
Here.
Member Larson,
Here.
Member Roybal.
Here.
Madam Chair, there is a quorum.
Thank you, Melissa. Are there any changes to the agenda, either staff or board members?
No, no
No
changes.
changes?
Move to approve the agenda. This is Katz.
Wait a second.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Bienvenue,
Yes.
Member Guida,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
Yes.
Member Larson,
Yes.
Member Roybal.
Buddy, are you with us?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
The
you.
motion has been approved.
Thank you very much. We have minutes. We have two sets of minutes, which are August the 10th, 2021 and August the 24th, 2021. Any changes to any of these, to either one of these? It appears I don't see anyone wanting to make any changes. Will someone make a motion to approve? Oh, wait, John Benvenue, you're on mute, and I believe he might have a change. He has his hand up. John.
Thank you. It took me a few minutes to find my virtual hand. On the August 10, 2021 minutes on page 28, the second numbered paragraph under motion, in the third sentence, after the word tower, change the semicolon to a comma, which I know is painfully picayune, but it does have some grammatical significance in this case. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And those are verbatim. I don't know, under approval of minutes, they had listed the August 10th twice, and they indicate one was verbatim. Why, I do not know, but anyway, that's what we're looking at, the verbatim ones. Roll call vote, please, if there are no other changes.
You need to have a motion
Madam Chair,
first.
Oh, a motion,
Is-
please.
So Katz moves to approve as amended.
Roybal seconds.
thank you. And Madam Chair, this is for all three sets of minutes, the regular minutes, the verbatim transcript, and the August 24th?
Yes.
Okay, great. Member Bienvenue,
Yes.
Member Guida,
Abstain?
Vice Chair Katz,
Yes.
Member Larson,
Yes.
Member Roybal.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much. And I didn't mean to get ahead of myself, but that's why I have Vice Chair Katz there telling me, calling me out on that. We have no findings of fact and conclusions of law here at this meeting this evening, so we'll go on to matters from the public. Let me see if we have anyone from the public. There's, I see three hands. I don't know if these are people that are going to be expressing something from the public, or if they're wanting to speak in reference to a matter regarding a case. But I'll take it to, there's Rick Martinez. Rick, can you hear me? Rick,
Yes,
we are under matters from the public. Is that what you want to address the board on?
Yes, I would.
Okay, you have the floor, Rick.
Okay, thank you. You know, I've worked for Bandstand for quite some time, but just recently, since it's been getting dark, I would walk back from Bandstand and notice the Delgado building where the new Victory Contemporary Gallery is. I just wanted to say the lighting on that building, the way the signs are put up, they take away the character and the significance of that building. I guess they're neon signs. I'm not exactly sure what they are, but at night they really just take away that whole character of that building. I'm not sure how that was done. But my question to the board is, was it done administratively? If it was done administratively, or did the board vote on it? If staff is doing this administratively, then it's doing a disservice to the board, your board, and it's doing a disservice to the ordinance by allowing something like these lights that really take away from a very significant building that's in the downtown area. It just really just destroys what this board is doing, and you guys are doing a great job. But the kind of lighting that was put on there was terrible, and I just don't think. I don't know if we can go back and review it. I don't know if that's possible. But my question is, how was it done? If it was done administratively, I think we have some big questions that need to be asked. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair,
Thank
may I
you,
respond?
Rick. Normally we address lighting, and I do not recall in this particular case if we did, but I think Nicole or Carly has something to say about that.
Yes, so this did not come through us. We can certainly send the inspector out.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Scarlet Breeding. Miss Breeding, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm the applicant for 638 Palace.
Yes, and
I
did
just
you
want-
wish to, let me interrupt you if I may. Did you want to speak in reference to that application, or are you speaking about something else?
It's in reference to the motion or the note or the conversation before the meeting started that this was going to be postponed. And I just had a question about that.
I didn't hear anything about a postponement on anything. Staff, there were no changes to the agenda. Correct?
Okay.
Thank you. Next, we have Dale Zinn. Dale, are you wanting to speak on something under matters from the board, or is this in reference to a case?
The Delgado building? Look,
Yeah,
sorry. I'm
Dale.
sorry, got some feedback. Wait, yep.
We have a really bad connection, Dale.
Oh, no, it's just that I've got somebody else in the room that's also connected, so she ran out of the room. I'm just speaking about Mr. Martinez's comment. I just wanted to make it clear that the Historic Santa Fe Foundation used to own the Delgado building and they sold it. So whatever's happening to that building is no longer a responsibility of the Historic Santa Fe Foundation. So I would ask the board to look into that.
Thank you. And as Carly stated, they are going to look into it. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else from the public wishing to make a comment under matters from the public? Stephanie Beninatto, you have your
Okay, you
hand
can
up.
come back now. Randy,
Thanks, Dale. You're still on.
okay, get up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Great, thank you. I'm hoping that Nicole will report back on 128 West Berger, the one I told you about that seemingly didn't have a permit and was supposed to get the opening in the wall that Mr. Smith owned. I hope that we get to have some information on that. I also want to point out there are a lot of buildings that have neon signs and also laser lights that are sort of intrusive at night. One of them is the New Mexico County building on Galisteo, across from the state parking structure. And their lights, I mean, it's a very nice sign, but it stays on all night long. And it's like, oh, do you really need to leave it on all night long? And it's a very, it's in nice colors, but they're sort of neon looking. They're also on Marcy Street. There's a laser light that comes down there at the corner, right across from City Hall, actually. And then the other thing I want to say is that this is a public meeting, and I really believe that all your members should be visible to the public throughout the meeting. And it's really disconcerting to me that Mr. Roybal is hardly ever visible to the public. And I just think that there needs to be made an effort. Sure, if you need to go to the bathroom, whatever, sure. But I really think being visible, knowing the public knows you're paying attention, that's really important. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else for public comment. So we will move on to the next thing on the agenda, and that is anything under staff communications.
Nothing from
Carly
staff.
or Nicole or any of the attorneys.
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We do not have anything under old business, and we will move on to new business. We have 7 cases under new business. And I do want to say that today we did do a field trip. It was a caravan field trip. Each person was in his or her own vehicle. And I got the opportunity today to meet Carly Picarello. Let me say that last name again. I like it. Picarello.
You got it. Thank you.
She is the Historic Preservation Division Manager, the new manager. So Carly, very nice meeting you. I also met city attorney, assistant city attorney, Frank Rubali. And Frank, also nice meeting you. And planner Marisa Sargent. So it was really nice meeting all of you. And I got to meet John Benvenue in person. So glad that we had a field trip. Those field trips are invaluable to our evaluations of all the cases. So glad that we got to do that. So we will move on to the first case this evening, and that is case 2020-00-4118. This is located at 638 East Palace. This is Daniel's case. Daniel, may we hear your report, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you see my screen?
We
Yes.
can.
So we're talking about 638 East Palace Avenue. This case is to have primary facades designated. It's a single-family residential structure with contributing status to the downtown and East Side Historic District. The structure was constructed in 1946 in a Spanish Pueblo revival style. It is a part of a semi-detached house facing north onto Palace Avenue. I've divided the front facades according to the definition of facades. Here, these is 1, 2, and 3 are facing north. These are the ones that face on the palace, and then 4 faces onto an alleyway and is publicly visible, and number 5 is not publicly visible. There have been no additions made to the property, and the 6/1 windows and lintels on the north and east facades are original. Again, here is the front of the structure. Facades 3 and 1 are visible from this perspective, and 2 is where the line is. This is the side that is much less visible. I took a couple of photos during our visit. These are 2 of the windows, which are the originals. They do have added metal storm windows on the exterior, but don't change the integrity of the originals behind. And in the rear is this non-visible facade. These are a couple of photos. I can enlarge them even. You'll see here that this is a new door and new or non-historic window. That's these 2 here, and the window located here is this window, which is one of the original windows. So then that's the next case. So again, this is a structure with no additions, original windows on the facades. We'll go back to this diagram. Facades 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 at this position are original windows. Here, there has been changes and the windows are non-historic. Staff regards, in particular, the straight-facing set of facades with this portal and the window to be worthy of primary status with the features that define the structure. The same features are visible on the facade number 4. And in the recommendation, I do recommend that it be made also primary. I think that's something that the board could discuss. So the staff recommends the north facade, that's 1, 2, and 3, and facade 4 on the east to be designated primary. And I stand for further questions.
Thank you, Daniel, for your report. Daniel, this address is 638 East Palace, but there's another building attached to it. This is a duplex. Is that correct? And
that's correct.
I just want to make sure that that's a different address and that has nothing to do with this application, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Board members, do any of you have questions for Daniel at this moment? Oh, gosh. I unfortunately am having problems with this computer, but I will see hands. Anthony, Member Guida.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Daniel, I do have a couple questions. I'm a little confused by the facade diagram. It seems like a site plan of both properties has been substituted.
You're right. Holy moly, what's happened here?
It's clearer in your elevation photograph.
Maybe the lines got. No, you're right. Okay, let me just redraw it for you.
Oh, it's clear as day. So
it's clear as day. The lines are. Oh, I can't draw. There's a line. I'm not sure what happened. I was thinking. Okay, so let me. So 1. Sorry, this is 3 is here, 2 and 1. This is obviously 4, and that's 5. So
great.
I apologize for that confusion. This is 1, 1, 2, and 3, like that.
Thank you for clarifying. So a question for you, is the attached duplex also contributing?
Yes, they were designated as one.
And is there a record of primary facades for that?
No, there's no record.
So they haven't been designated on the adjacent property. And just out of curiosity, what makes facade 4 special, other than originality?
Only that it retains its original windows.
Okay.
I can show you
the character defining features are principally 1, 2, and 3.
I would say that the character defining features are, on the one hand, the windows, but on the other hand, also the design of the front with this centered window and the portal. And this is a slight kind of dipped form of the parapet.
I would agree. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Guida. I believe Member Benvenu had his hand up.
I did, Madam Chair, but the 2 questions I had were just asked by Member Guida.
Okay, great. I don't see any other members have questions at this time. So I will go to the public, and by the way, I would like to limit public comment for 2 minutes. And Nicole, can you help me on that?
Madam Chair. Yes, I can do that.
Thank you. Let's see, we have John Eddy. Melissa, would you swear in Mr. Eddy?
Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is John Eddy. My address is 227 East Palace Avenue, Santa Fe, 87501.
Thank you, Mr. Eddy. Good evening. What do you have
Good
to tell
evening,
us this
Madam
evening?
Madam Chair. Nice to see everyone again. It's been a while. I just wanted to quickly state that I completely support staff's recommendation here. And I believe very strongly that the characteristics that he has pointed out here and isolated as character defining are certainly character defining. So I would urge you to accept his suggestions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Eddy. Stephanie Beninato has a comment. Stephanie, would you please get sworn in?
Sure.
Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Stephanie Beninato, PO Box 1601, Santa Fe 87504. You're welcome. I too agree with the staff's recommendation for primary facades, actually including number 4. I realize that it's a narrow alley, but I think the purpose is to preserve the window openings. And since there's not much chance of development anyway on that side, I don't see any problem actually with giving it that extra protection of a primary facade. And I also want to point out that just because a window or door has been replaced with new material, it doesn't mean that that facade is not necessarily significant. I'm not saying that you should make number 5 significant or contributing, significant. I'm sorry,
Primary.
significant facade. Primary facade. Thank you. Because it's in the back and it's not really visible. And really, if you want to have some flexibility here, that's where the add-on is going to happen. But I also don't like it being discounted just because the window has been replaced. The opening is still original, and therefore it does have integrity, especially when there are other windows in the same facade that are original. And then my other question is, what about the wall? Is the wall historic at all? Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. I don't see anyone else for public comment, and I will ask about the wall. Daniel, do you know about the wall?
I don't, Madam Chair. I would suppose that it is of a piece with the house because it does span across the 2 units, and given its relatively low height, but I don't have any concrete information. The HCPI is an old 1980s, very skeletal one. So I don't know.
Member Katz?
Yes, I was going to make a motion if you're ready for that.
If there is no further discussion, I will entertain a motion, please.
In case number 2021-004118, HDRB at 638 East Palace Avenue, I would move to accept the recommendation of staff and designate facades 1, 2, 3, and 4 as primary. I don't think we can do anything on the wall because I believe it was noticed, or maybe it was.
I don't believe it was noticed. Is that correct, Daniel?
No, there was no status notification, so we're not looking at status for the wall.
Okay, so I'll just leave it those 4 facades.
And that was on the north and the east facades. Is there a second? Member Benvenu?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would second the motion. I'd also just bring up that I don't know if the applicant was called on for any comments or.
Well, the applicant had an opportunity to speak, and the applicant did not speak at that time.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's fine. Roll call vote, please.
Member Beachside. Oh, sorry, she's not there. Member Bienvenue.
Yes.
Member Guida.
No.
Vice Chair Katz.
Yes.
Member Larson.
Yes.
Member Roybal.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion has been approved.
Thank you, Melissa. We move on to the second case, which is at the same address, 638 East Palace, and the case number is 2020-004119. And of course, it's Daniel's case. Daniel, your report, please.
Madam Chair, this case will need to be postponed. There are two reasons. One is that we required a PZR to be included in the packet, and it was not. We do have the PZR, it will be included in the next packet. And the second is that because primary facade number 4 has been designated, an exception must be requested for construction within 10 feet of a primary facade. So the case would need to be postponed until October 12th.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. I will entertain a motion to postpone this case to October 12th.
Madam Chair,
Members? Yes.
I believe the applicant's hand is raised.
Oh, okay, let me see. Hold on a minute. I will give the applicant an opportunity to speak, of course. Applicant. Okay, I didn't realize that your case was going to be postponed. Scarlet Breeding?
Yes.
Yes.
I will need to go ahead and swear. I'll need to go ahead and swear you in, please.
Would you please?
Do you swear? Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Ms. Breeding, thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Scarlet Breeding, 24 Whispering Spirits Drive, Cerrillos, New Mexico.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Breeding, you have the floor.
I have a question about the postponement. I'm an architect. I worked for the last 30 years in the historic district of Annapolis, Maryland. So I'm very familiar and very respectful of historic properties. One of the first things that your guidelines say is that you have to get within 5 days after you make your application, you have to submit your zoning report. My first visit was to the zoning office. I met with Lee Logstrom. We reviewed in detail the case, and I met that obligation of getting that zoning review in within 5 days. So since it was required, and we met that, plus all of the information from that zoning application is included in the documents that you see here. I'm just wondering why we need to postpone.
Daniel, would you restate the reasons why this is being postponed?
Thank you. Yes, the packet was made available to the public and to the board through an error, did not include the zoning review. So for that reason, we need to postpone. The second reason is because of the exception, which Ms. Breeding, we spoke about briefly, that because of the setback from the primary facade, you need to apply for an exception. So there are two reasons. So I will be in contact with you about applying for the exception to construct within 10 feet of a primary facade.
And Madam Chair, may I add something?
Yes.
So when a status review or primary elevation designation comes forward in the same hearing as a remodel, there's always the risk of postponement if an exception turns out to be required based on the status hearing or the primary hearing. So I just wanted to offer that to the applicant.
Thank you for that explanation, Nicole and Daniel, and Ms. Breeding. Sorry about the having to postpone the case, but because of the board's designation of the facade number 4, then you do have to ask for exceptions for what you are planning on doing. If you have nothing. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Can I?
Yes.
I have my hand raised for a second question. There is no work whatsoever on elevation 4. So
No, it's not that you're planning anything on elevation 4, but there are rules that on elevation 4, if you are planning what you have submitted, there are rules that this has to be 10 feet away from that primary facade. So that is the exception.
Thank you.
Okay. So if nothing further is going to be discussed, I will entertain a motion to postpone this case.
Katz would move to postpone to October 12th.
Roybal second.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Bienvenue,
Yes.
Member Guida,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
Yes.
Member Larson,
Yes.
Member Roybal.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you, Melissa, and we shall see you at the next meeting, ma'am. The third case on the agenda is located at 555 Olympia Street. This is a non-contributing building. The case number is 2020-004120. Daniel, I believe this is your case.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. So 555 Agua Fria is a 1,109 square foot small pitched roof structure constructed in 1975. This is the aerial view. You can see it sits behind the front row, but is visible from the public street. There it is, photographed from the public street. Here is the existing structure. It's located in the West Side Guadalupe district, behind a structure that is addressed as 553 Agua Fria. It is visible from the street via the driveway. Another view. Here is the overview of the lot. Here is the existing structure on the street, and these are the planned structures behind. There are a number of items here. They're really more descriptive than discrete items. So the numbers that you see are not all represented. But the applicant now proposes the following. Point number 1, to remodel and expand the existing structure. The existing structure occupies approximately this position, but I would like to get a little more clarification if so desired by the board. It will include 1,232 square feet of additions and the removal of only 150 square feet of the original structure. So it's about 10% of the structure will be removed. Portals will account for an additional 330 square feet, and a separate garage and storage will account for 643 square feet. So the garage is here in front, closer to the street, and these are the new structure and remodel. Point number 2, the proposed design incorporates some pitched roof elements that are encountered in the original, but strives to maintain a wall-dominated design as required by code. You can see this here in the elevations. Point number 2 here. This is the south of elevation. This is the portion that would be visible from the street. This is without the wall, the south elevation. A gable roof will be terminated at an adobe stucco wall to emphasize the wall-dominated theme of the design. Looking at a structure in the neighborhood, it would have something like this kind of an appearance in terms of the wall-dominated nature. That picture was provided by the applicant. Point number 3, the building will extend to the maximum allowable height of 16 feet 5 inches. Point 4, all of the structures are to be constructed of adobe and finished with a full 3-coat cement stucco with El Rey adobe color to match the house. Just going forward here to the main house, which is in the ownership of the same owner. The color scheme will match, and points 4, 5, and 7 4 is the adobe, 5 refers to the roofing, and 7 is the wood trim, or rather this wood coloring. They will all match this existing structure. Point number 6 is that windows will be wood windows with exterior off-white clouding that are deep set into the walls, approximately 6 inches. Item 8, exterior lighting will be strictly limited to sconce downlights at the storage room and yard gates and portals. Going back to here, this is here is the storage, and then there are gates here and gates here and here. I'm not sure if there's a light also back in this one. There will be no rooftop equipment. That's point number 9. And point number 10 is that yard walls and fences will be limited to this. Here is a 6-foot wall. And then these are also, 6-foot walls, which is the maximum allowable height. That's the next case. So I stand for questions regarding this project. Staff recommends approval of the proposed project, finding that it complies with sections 14-5.2 D and I for the West Side Guadalupe design standards. Stand for questions.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
I worry that we've lost Madam Chair. Why don't you go ahead?
Goodness, thank you, Frank. So Daniel, just as a point of clarification, you had raised the issue of it not being exactly clear where the existing footprint of the house is relative to what's being proposed. If we look at page 9 of the packet, there is a site plan, proposed site plan that explains that fairly clearly. I benefit the board to see.
I think that's this one.
Yeah, can you zoom in on that?
Let me
or enlarge it.
Zoom in. Yeah, hold on a second.
There you go.
Just a minute. Just going to adjust move things around on my little screen. Ah. Okay, sorry about that. I'll try something else. Sorry for that. I'll enlarge it this way. So here you can see the dotted line, right? That's the original.
Correct. Yeah.
Thanks for that.
So the point being that the house is virtually surrounded by additions on the north and south, and a little less so on the east and west. That's all I had.
Okay. Cecilia, you're back. Cecilia? We can't hear you, Cecilia.
She is connecting to audio. Looks like she's coming.
Okay.
Cecilia, can you connect to your audio?
As she's doing that, why don't we have the applicant come forward, be sworn in, and explain the project to us? There's Mr. Zinn.
Good evening.
Okay.
Need to get
Good evening. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Yes.
Why don't you give your
Thank you.
presentation,
Please state your
please?
name and address for the record.
My name is Dale Zinn, Z-I-N-N. I'm at P.O. Box 756, Santa Fe 87504.
Okay, what do you have to tell us?
This project is driven by several forces that were beyond our control. One is a zero lot line on the west, zero lot line agreement that was signed prior to my clients owning this property. It was also driven by, there's an 8-foot fence that Judge Barbara V. Hill put in on the east side of this property. So that drove this building into a very long and narrow configuration. Because my client and I were involved and successfully, I think, in restoring the front property, but we want to make a vocabulary of both the pitched and the Pueblo revival that you see on El Fria. So that was pretty much the driving forces. There's very little of this that's visible, of course, but we want it to be read as a compound. The other driving force was the little building. I submitted for actually to demolish that building, and we withdrew that because the fire department said if we don't retain that building, then because of access being very limited, like 9'6" driveway, that we might not be able to build anything back there. So that's why this little austere little building is being retained and basically eaten up by our addition. I stand for any questions.
Does anyone from the board have a question of Mr. Zen? Okay. Seeing none. Oh, yes. Member Guida.
Thank you. Mr. Zinn, can we look at, and Daniel, maybe look at the south elevation again, just so I don't know that I'm understanding it completely. There's a garage that's attached by a portal in the foreground of this.
Correct.
So that's the true south elevation.
Yes, the other one is with the garage removed and the wall removed.
I see. So this is number 10 here is really what we would see from.
Correct.
Okay.
Daniel wanted me to provide that other facade just in case people were curious of what was happening behind the wall. But really, you're going to see the garage and the storage and very little bit of that yard wall.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Hearing none, we will now move to the public hearing portion of the application. Is there anybody who has comment that they would like to give?
Stephanie Benenato.
Hi, thank you. I understand the owner's desire to make it more harmonious with the front house and to make it look like a compound, and I do appreciate that. It's more complicated looking, but I think that it works pretty well. And since this little crenellation is already there, that was my most visual discordance with the whole thing, is that crenellation thing. But if it's already there, I'm not sure if it's already there or what's going on, because you see it on the proposed north, but then you see it on proposed south. So it sounds like a new detail, and I think that's the one that doesn't seem like it works with everything else. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public?
I see no hands.
Okay, then it comes back to the board. Comments, questions, discussions from the board? Okay, how about motions? Oops, someone had a question, I thought.
Vice Chair Katz, if we're ready, I would make a motion.
Excellent, thank you. Please proceed.
In case 2020 004120 HDRB 555 Agua Street, I move that the board approve the project as submitted and as recommended by staff.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, we have a
second.
Thank you. May we have a roll call vote, please, Melissa?
Yes. Member Bienvenue?
Yes.
Member Guida?
Yes.
Member Larson?
Yes.
Member Roybal?
Yes.
Is the chair back yet? Vice Chair Katz?
I don't think she is. I mean, we see her picture,
Okay.
but we haven't heard from her.
Okay. And are you going to vote in this or?
Sure.
Okay,
I'll
Vice
vote
Chair
yes.
Katz.
I'll vote yes.
Thank you. Thank you. The motion has been approved.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Zinn. Let's move on to item number 4 on the agenda, case number 2021-004-121 at 1023 East Alameda Street. May we have the report from Angela?
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. Can you see my screen?
Very, very nice.
Okay. The location of this case, 1023 East Alameda, is within this red egg. This is Santa Fe River, and this is East Alameda, and it's a vacant lot off of East Alameda. Just for reference, it doesn't connect, but this is Cerro Gordo up here. Before I get further into the presentation, I would like to clarify that there are some details that I wrote up in the staff report that are not accurate. There's 4, and they relate to some of the design details and materials used. And so I am going to provide the presentation with those corrections along the way. So let me go to the picture. This is the view from the street. We were there today, some of the board members and staff. 1023 East Alameda is a 21,118 square foot vacant lot that fronts East Alameda across from Patrick Smith Park in the downtown and East Side Historic District. The applicant proposes to construct a new 2,971 square foot residence that combines elements of territorial and Spanish Pueblo revival style. The proposed residence height ranges from 13.5 inches to 16 feet, where the maximum allowable height is 15 feet, 1 inch. The site slopes 4 feet along the proposed building's footprint, and the applicant requests an additional 11 inches. This is the topography of the site. This is the site plan. The applicant proposes a building that is predominantly territorial revival style with angular massing and flat roofs, topped with brick masonry coping. Its stepped massing and deep-set bull-nosed window and door openings borrow from the Spanish Pueblo revival style. The massing is stepped at various levels to accommodate the site's slope, which descends to the north toward the arroyo. The proposed plans include the materials and accents that are not traditional in the downtown and East Side Historic District. The house's front west elevation features a large, deep entry and a garage. The applicant has proposed steel coping and columns instead of wood at the portal in this area. Windows under the portal on the garage are aluminum finished in an oil rubbed bronze matte paint finish. Let me go back to the south elevation. Other windows and doors will be aluminum with matching oil rubbed bronze matte paint finish. All publicly visible windows will be divided light. That's the rear. east elevation. This is another part of the east elevation. We go back to this is the north elevation.
What's that?
That's the north elevation. And this is the north elevation. They're both marked north elevation.
That's not right.
It looks like there's a discrepancy, yes. I'll ask the applicant to clarify that.
One appears to be a building section.
Is that the section, Anthony?
That's the section. That's the elevation.
That's the elevator. This is the section.
Correct.
I'll keep those out in the future unless they're relevant. This one is not. This is the west elevation that faces the street. And this is the south elevation towards the actually towards the street as well. This is the proposal with the yard wall alterations. I will talk about that next. Stucco will be Stowe's Sahara and brick coping will be dark gray. The applicant proposes the applicant proposes alterations to the non-contributing existing stone wall. The existing opening will be shifted to the west. This is the current opening, and it will be shifted west. I believe on our field trip, I indicated it was being shifted east. It's being shifted west for a vehicular opening and gate. The replacement segment will be the same style and height using the existing stone material to the extent possible. The gates will look like a single gate. The gates and a short section of wall between the existing portion of the wall is to remain between the wall to remain and the newly built wall. It will be made of IPE that grays over time. Additional yard walls will divide the driveway area from an interior courtyard. These additional yard walls will be a mix of stone, which will match the existing site walls, and stucco. The stones from the yard wall will be removed, the concrete, and reset to accommodate the new driveway alignment. All new concrete at the drive apron will be colored tan, the Davis color of the Davis color sandstone. One skylight and rooftop appurtenances will be screened by the rooftop. Now I'll show you more photographs of the site. Saw that. This is a canale detail. And this is a detail of the brick parapet detail. Excuse me. This is a diagram of the story poles in the field. The applicant's prepared to talk about those in terms of their placement, clarifying some questions asked on our field trip today. This is the front of the site, and this is the vehicular gate. It will be shifted to the west. These are the story poles, multiple story poles in different heights. Excuse me, this is looking northeast, and this is an existing house right next door. Existing, non-contributing. Again, this is another photograph from the street. Additional photographs from the street. More from a southwest view. Sarah Gordo in the back. These are the materials. The garage door will be dark bronze. I can't read that. Brick is dark gray. Sidewalk is sandstone. This is the wood gate. This is the roofing material. This is the exposed steel. This is the window clad, which is a dark bronze. And this is the stucco color Sahara. These are examples of outdoor sconces, dark sky compliant. And these are the outdoor step lighting examples of the proposed outdoor lights. Oops, pardon me. Staff recommends approval. Sorry. Legible. Staff recommends approval of the proposed project and finds that it complies with section 14-5.2D, general design standards for all historic districts, and 14-5.2 capital E, downtown and east side design standards. Staff defers to the board whether to grant an additional 11 inches in height per section 14-5.2, big D, number 9, little c, small I, large f, regarding slope. And that concludes my presentation. The applicant will be able to provide, I believe, slides of a 3D model that may be more easily understood of this proposal, which is on a sloping site with different constraints. The applicant is Gabriel Brown.
Thank you, Angela.
Frank, thank you. I'm back. Sorry, everybody,
Great.
about all the problems I was having. Frank, thank you for taking over. Angela, I believe this was characterized as part territorial, part Spanish Pueblo revival. Can we add modernistic? Would you say that would be appropriate to add that to this as well?
Chair Rios, thank you for the question. There, I believe it's a blend of both historic styles, territorial revival and Spanish Pueblo revival. And it has modernist elements that include its portal, metal posts, steel posts, as well as
Steel coping?
Thank you, yes, the brick coping.
Angela, what does our ordinance tell us? How does it address steel being used in this manner?
How does it address steel being used in this manner? Is your question? Well, recent Santa Fe style, as you know, it intends to achieve a harmony with historic buildings by retention of similarity of details. Now, that implies that it's an existing building, retaining those. I believe the general detail or the dominating effect of this structure will be adobe, as if it were of adobe construction.
Thank you. Member Guida.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Angela, for the clear presentation. I'm very interested in hearing from the applicant, seeing more of the renderings. Just one point of clarification I have for you. The 11 inches of height that's being asked for is due to grade, and just just a question for you is that this is at the discretion of the board. This does not require exception criteria to be met. Is that correct?
Member Guida, that is correct. It's at the
Thank you,
discretion of the
Angela.
board.
Thank you. If there are no further questions or comments, we need to swear in the applicant.
Okay, is the applicant ready?
You should be unmuted.
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Thank you. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give? Okay, thank you. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Gabriel Brown. My address is 1023 East Alameda, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87505. No, I'm sorry. That's the address of the project. My address is 1012 Marquez Place, number 310B, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87505.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Have the floor. In addition to what staff just told us, what else do you have to tell us?
I would love to present the 3D model we've prepared for you today. I don't know if somebody there on staff can give me permission to share my screen.
I'm sure that they can. Would you give Mr. Brown permission?
Angela, can you stop share? And you should be able to share.
Yes, let me stop this room.
Okay. Let's see. I have Angela. Sorry, I need to figure out how to do this. Can you see a three-dimensional model now?
No.
Yes.
Yes, now we can.
I'll run through this as quickly as I can. I'm hope to just take a few minutes here. The first thing is that Alameda is here on the bottom of the site. The project is this home built on a fairly tight lot. We have a setback requirement on the west side of our property that we can't build beyond. We're building about a 2,900 square foot house with a 2-car garage, not a monster. And let's see, we essentially are very visible against West Alameda. That's obviously a very an important thoroughfare in Santa Fe, and myself and our clients, Dr. and Mrs. Schneider, who are here with me tonight, want to sort of present kind of our design idea within the constraints. So again, we're very constrained to the area we can build within. That's not atypical for the historic district, and we're comfortable with that. But one of the things that was necessary is, unfortunately, to move the opening, which was here. I don't know if you can see that, to here in order to be able to put the garage on this corner and access from here. It's really the only feasible opening onto the property off of West Alameda. And then we've created a yard wall which separates that from that. But let me step back a little bit and talk about the design philosophy that Dr. Schneider and Mrs. Schneider and I set out to on this project. Essentially, I've lived and worked in Santa Fe essentially my whole life. My family's from Santa Fe. I've raised my children here. Dr. and Mrs. Schneider moved here several years ago and lived in this neighborhood. And when this lot became available, they grabbed it up because I think it had wonderful tree cover. It's in a great location, and they really loved the stone walls that front the project on Alameda. And those sort of fundamental things and the historic quality of Santa Fe are something that we want to sort of honor and respect. At the same time, they're modern art collectors, and we're interested in, while both honoring and respecting the historic traditions of Santa Fe, we're also interested in finding a contemporary way to do that. I think that section 15, and Chair Rios was asking about this, but it's section 15.5.2.3 defines a recent Santa Fe style, and this is a quote, which is a development from and an elaboration of the old Santa Fe style with different materials. And I remember having long conversations about this, and essentially I think the code sort of recommends the idea that the forms and the overall feeling of a home should be very specific to Santa Fe and to the styles we locate here, but that there's some leeway within the code to kind of explore creating those forms and those details with new and modern materials. And obviously the benefits of steel in terms of its strength and in terms of its longevity and frankly its beauty is something that we wanted to explore on this project. Although it's predominantly a stucco structure with a traditional brick coping. We've used a slightly different color for brick coping, but it's a traditional brick coping on most of the structure except at the portal where we need the structural qualities of steel. So we wanted to honor the design traditions of Santa Fe without imitating them. And at the same time, we wanted to innovate within the design language itself. And that was sort of our goal. I want to point out several specific things with regard to our project where we feel like we've done that. So the first obviously is sort of this big portal, which has a kind of cornice detailing, which evokes the traditional brick cornice lines that you see around Santa Fe and are part of the territorial style. On the rest of the house, we'll be building it out of brick, but at the portal, again, for strength reasons and longevity and a number of other reasons, because we wanted the clear column space. We essentially have one reasonable view from the property and it's out this way. So we've done that. The traditional brick coping, I've already mentioned. With regard to windows, we'll be using a divided light window. This is an aluminum window and it's intended to simulate steel sash windows, which are typical in commercial buildings in Santa Fe and residential buildings. Actually, there was one in the photograph that was brought up on the project off of Alameda a minute ago, had a steel sash window in it, which was sort of beautiful. Most of those steel sash windows have been torn out because they don't allow for insulated glass, but now there are aluminum profiles that sort of harken back to that aluminum. We are also, those steel sash windows are again common in commercial projects around Santa Fe. Under the deep portal, facing west in a way that's not visible from the street, is this glacier facade. And again, code section E2E allows larger what are called plate glass elements in the code where they're under a deep set portal, as in this case. I believe that section of the code was written specifically to encourage the kind of steel framed shop windows one sees under portals in the historic downtown area of Santa Fe, and we've adopted sort of that language for that facade. Again, it's not really visible from Alameda. You might see little pieces of it, but essentially you don't get that big frontage. So this is the view along Alameda. The final thing I want to address is our request for height. So we designed this building within the height limitations that staff, Angela specifically, set out for us, which was 15 foot 1 inch. And then in conversations with the civil engineer for the project, he reminded us what perhaps is sort of obvious, and that is that we're right next to the Santa Fe River. The Santa Fe River, of course, is subject to flooding. And that engineer has recommended strongly that we raise the house if we could by about a foot. And we find that we can do that if we ask you for 11 inches of additional height. That is within the board's jurisdiction without asking for any changes on a site that has natural slopes of more than 2 feet. Our site has a natural slope of 4 feet along the sort of rear elevation. You can see we're quite high there. So we're fairly sort of short. Our shorter masses are along the front street. So you're allowed to grant up to 2 feet, and we're asking for 11 inches in that case. That's really my presentation. I'd be glad to stand open. I should talk more about the yard wall specifically. So there is a curved yard wall on site which is under the footprint of the house. It's non-contributing. It was built by the Sennas, who built this house in 1994. So this house was built in 1994. They built this curved yard wall so that they could have an above ground pool for their grandkids when they came to visit. And so we know that that yard wall was built sometime between 1994 and now. It's not historic or contributing. So we need to remove that. The beautiful yard walls along the street, we wish we could maintain, but because of the only feasible access to the property, what we're proposing is to take a yard wall which is functionally here and demolish it, reuse the existing stone to remake it in the same style here to the right where the existing opening is. So we're going to try to move a stone wall, which is has its challenges, but the goal will be that we will be able to have in essence a continuous stone wall. We wanted to actually make it continuous with this existing wall, but for zoning reasons we have to step it back away. And when we did, we felt that the most kind treatment was to take the gate element, which is a wood element here, and do just a little section of fence that sets the new from the old, which is another thing that's sort of recommended and required by our city historic codes, that it be possible to tell the new from the old. And so that little element does that. Again, I'm be glad to stand open for questions if you have them.
Mr. Brown, thank you very much for your presentation, and especially for providing this model. It is very helpful. It makes things very clear. Yes, I have a couple of questions. So you indicated that you are going to be using brick coping except under the portal. Is that correct?
That's correct, Chair Rios. We're using brick coping in all the places on the model where the coping is shown. The exception would be above the portal. So this would be a steel coping instead of a brick coping, but we still want that same sort of stepped detailing that's typical of the brick. So.
And there on the portal, can you tell us what that treatment on the ground is going to be? Yes.
Yeah.
That.
These elements will be stone to match as closely as we can the stone elements at the front. So the two elements that support the column will be stone bases, and then this is a stucco wall, obviously, to match the stucco of the house. But this is a stone element.
Yes, but what is in front of all of those windows as you step into the portal area?
This will be landscaping, and it will be a combination of concrete and planting. We haven't fully developed the landscaping plan at this point, but the intention is that this area will be their outdoor patio and outdoor living space, and will be created with a combination of concrete and planting and rock and hardscape.
Okay, and show me the wall, the wall closest to the street, please. Yes, right there. Are you also planning to do some work there as you drive into the property? And are you planning to do something to the sidewalk?
Yes, Chair Rios. Right now, the existing entry to the property is where, is right through that wall. And so there's an existing curb cut as well as an approach onto the property here. There's an existing brick sidewalk, and our intention is to take up the brick on one side and simply put it back on the other side. So we'll be reusing the brick of the sidewalk. We will have to create a new apron, a new curb cut, and a new entry onto the property. And we'll be doing that all with the sandstone colored concrete out here where it's visible. And then again, we'll be moving the existing brick to the opposite side as we have to move this entry to the west.
And you are also proposing solar panels and skylights, which are not going to be visible. Those are going to be hidden behind the parapet.
We haven't made a final decision about solar. We actually have not at this point made that part of the process. We do have a parapet high enough to hide solar. We do have a skylight, and it will be and the skylight will be hidden by parapets. That's correct. And we're very much aware that any rooftop appurtenances will need to be hidden behind parapets.
Thank you. I'm sure other board members have questions for you. So I will go to Member Larson.
Sorry. Thank you. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate that you have done a nod to sort of mid-century modern Santa Fe. Those are some of my favorite buildings in town, and I think that this is a very respectful reference to that. I like all of the details throughout that sort of blends the contemporary and the modern era. And I think you've done really well at orienting the building to have, still that design playfulness while still, maintaining the cohesion of the streetscape. So I think this is a really creative design, and I too appreciate the model. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Larson. Member Guida.
Thank you, Chair Rios. Mr. Brown, thank you for your presentation tonight. This is an exceptionally skillful project. Skillful in terms of its use of a very small site to create a house that feels generous and grand and has a real attitude about about the site and creating as big of an open space as possible. Everything from the carport to how you enter the house to what we would imagine to be a great entertaining patio seems terrific. To me, the inside of the house is just as great. Of course, our purview is the outside. To me, this checks all the boxes of our relatively stringent code, but does so in a way that really maintains, this is more architecture than we usually see before the board. I'm really glad to see a house with such a strong concept and such a strong form. I do believe this is a contemporary take on territorial style. I think that kind of fits the definition. Some details that are contemporary, but it's room-based, wall-dominated, yada yada. It's a really great project, and it's fantastic to see it. I also appreciate the sensitivity along the street wall. Gate's really nice. Rebuilding the wall, I know you're required to do it, but rebuilding the wall not in line with the existing wall is a really strong way to kind of deal with material that may not exactly match, and is a more kind of contemporary adjustment of that wall. So kudos.
Thank you, Member Guida. Member Katz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions. One is I'm unclear what the material for the gate and for that little section joining the new and the old wall is. Can you amplify on that?
Yes, thank you, Member Katz. Essentially, this is a wooden. It's a product that we've used in. It's a natural wood called ipe. It's a Brazilian imported hardwood. It starts out, as you might see in our presentation, as a very dark brown wood, but as the sun shines on it, it turns gray. It lasts a long time. It's much. We like it much better than plastic wood substitutes, and we like it better than the native softwoods, which curl up and turn to dust too fast. fast. So it's a hardwood that starts out as very dark. It will have a steel frame behind it, but that won't be visible. Let me just see if we've, yeah, it will have a steel frame behind it which supports the wood, but that shouldn't really be visible except for through the cracks of the wood, which are, you know, are fairly tight. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually have Ipe on my deck, and it's quite a wonderful wood, and it does last very well. What is the garage door?
The garage door is a aluminum garage door system. In this case, we would have a frosted glass, and they will make it with a custom Muntin layout so that it meets the 30-inch rule of the historic district. So it's an aluminum product. It will quite closely match the aluminum window products that we're planning to use for the windows in terms of color, and we're going to frost the glass so that we get some light in there, but and it can be used also as a studio space, but we don't want to be seeing in and out of there.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for right now.
Thank you. Any other board members have questions of Mr. Brown at this time? It appears not. Mr. Brown and Angela, I have a question for you. On the portal, the glass, all that, the expansive glass, to enter there on the portal, would you describe the public visibility of that?
Sure, Rios. I'll start with that. So I'm aligning the model here. One of the things, if you went out there to the site visit today, is you know that the adjoining property and our property have some really big, beautiful trees on them. We're down in the riparian zone along the river. And I know that legally we're not supposed to think of trees as being permanent, and they're not, but trees along that riparian zone, I think, will always be there. And so if you could get way back, you could see part of that facade, but the truth is that because of tree cover, you can only see about that much of it. So as you were driving along, if you were walking along the sidewalk, as you walk for 5 or 10 seconds, I think you would see the edge of that. It does meet all of the code requirements for glazing underneath a portal. So I think that's my answer to your question, Angela.
Angela, do you agree with Mr. Brown's explanation? Angela.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I agree with the applicant's description of that, even without the trees, because the trees may not always be there, but that those northern duo of windows is divided light for that reason. So, and that was one of my recommendations.
Thank you, Angela. Member Benvenue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't really have a question, just a comment. Yeah, I guess I would say I think this is sort of an unfortunate interpretation of the requirements of the ordinance. I don't believe it meets the strict standards for this particular area. I appreciate the candor of the applicant in just acknowledging that this is an effort to put a contemporary spin on old Santa Fe style. And that's something that I know there are many people, particularly people who moved to town recently, wish to do. And especially people that have modern art collections, as you indicate, and other reasons to appreciate lots of open expanses and windows. But this is an historic district with very specific requirements. And I just don't find it meets any of them, whether it's old Santa Fe style, either Pueblo or territorial, or recent Santa Fe style, which here is being misinterpreted to mean something recent as of today, where the ordinance is pretty specific that they mean recent as of 1957. So I think that this is a house that There are many, many places something like this could be built. I think you would get a better product if it were built somewhere else, because you wouldn't have the limitations that you're trying to fit this within, of trying to make a nod towards specific standards that don't really fit this house and are constraining what you would otherwise be free to do. So I just think it's, to me, it would set a very unfortunate precedent to allow a house like this on, as you indicated, is such an important corridor on the east side. And I think the easiest way to see that that's the case is just imagine if there were 10 or 15 houses with this same design along that corridor or anywhere on the east side. It would no longer be the east side. It would be a section of Las Campanas or another part of town, which has beautiful homes, but they're not historic. And I just think that our obligation is to interpret the ordinance, which does not, in my view, permit this type of architecture in this area.
Thank you, Member Benvenue. Member Roybal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Brown, first of all, I think we all appreciate, especially the 3D drawings that you did. I think this is a wonderful house that you're building in that area. So thank you for the presentation. It really clarifies a lot of things that we need to know. So again, our thanks for the presentation and well done.
Member Guida, do you have something further?
Just as a matter of discussion, I would challenge Member Benvenue's comments that this doesn't meet any of the standards of this district. I'd like to know which ones he thinks it does not meet.
Thank you. So specifically, just to take a couple examples, the steel column is specifically prohibited by the ordinance. The ordinance says that even under recent Santa Fe style, portals need to conform to old Santa Fe style, which in turn states that the columns are wooden. So that's one. The materials, the wooden, the metal, the steel elements in other parts, including on the wall, but also the large expanses of glass on the garage door and under the portal, I think are not, under the portal may meet the strict requirement of the ordinance under recent Santa Fe style, but certainly not the spirit of what that was intending to permit. The sharp corners are not permitted because they're not adobe-like in appearance, which is an ordinance requirement. And the coping being dark gray is a specific effort to make what would otherwise be something traditional and thus required look contemporary. And so it's not harmonious with the traditional historic style of territorial architecture. So, and then you have the conglomeration of three distinct styles into one building: Pueblo style, territorial style, and what the applicant is referring to as recent Santa Fe style, which is also not the intent of the ordinance. Those are distinctive styles, not to be combined in a mishmash of styles. So those are just some of the elements that I don't believe are permitted under the ordinance, particularly just the lack of harmony with the streetscape, historic streetscape of the east side.
Well, I disagree. I find that to be, a personal interpretation of those things. I mean, as far as the letter of the law goes, this does meet those things, and this board has certainly approved details such as brick copings in non-traditional colors, steel posts on portals, and other details in this district before. So, John, I would just caution, we allow for a lot of contemporary expressions of Santa Fe style in this district. Very few of them are as good as what we're seeing tonight. And I would prefer that the board doesn't let personal preference get in the way of approving a design that is not only compliant, but is exceptionally good and would be a benefit to this district.
Point of order, Madam Chair. It's not
Member-
appropriate. This discussion is not appropriate in a hearing like this. This is just a personal disagreement that the member just expressed. He's permitted to express his own opinion on this matter, but not to suggest that another member's opinion is not as worthy as his. So I strongly ask that type of dialogue not be permitted.
Thank you
This
both
is
of
not
you.
a personal judgment. This is an interpretation of the ordinance.
Yes, this board members are, of course, allowed and encouraged to make their suggestions, their wishes, their whatever they're expressing known, but to indicate that another board member should not be making a certain, shouldn't be expressing himself in a certain way is out of the question. I agree with Member Benvenue. We all have the opportunity to express ourselves. And I will go back to Member Guida. Did you have something further?
That's all I had, Madam Chair. I was asking for clarification. I'm sorry if it's interpreted as being a personal attack. I apologize to Member Benvenue.
Thank you, Member Guida. Member Katz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would first like to thank the architect for the wonderful graphics that really let us evaluate the exterior of this house. I think what is exhibited here is a conflict that we have in the interpretation of what our ordinance is all about. And I admit that I share Member Bienvenue's view of it a little bit more. And I think that the phrase that comes up again and again and again as we look at houses is the harmony with the streetscape, that we want these buildings to look of the same kind of design. And I don't think that there are people who don't like that interpretation, who say, oh, but that's so old-fashioned and it's just imitative of the old style. And we want something new and exciting. And this design has elements that are new and exciting and quite beautiful. I mean, I like modern architecture very much. I just don't think that it's appropriate. I don't think that our standard is that if it sort of looks like Santa Fe style, so it doesn't clash with it, we can do these contemporary elements. And I don't think that that was the intent of our ordinance, and I don't think that that's how the ordinance was written. It is very restrictive on the style, and it must gall architects to have to just sort of reproduce Santa Fe style, Pueblo or territorial. But I think that's what our ordinance demands, and I think that's what keeps our city, the very small part of the city, less than 20%, I think, in the historic style and makes it look like Santa Fe. And I don't have a problem with any part of the house, essentially, except the garage door, the portal roof, and the windows behind the garage door, the portal there. And I acknowledge that they're not very visible, but they are visible, and they just absolutely clash with a traditional adobe style. I have a portal, I have windows on my portal and doors, and they are not divided light, but they're not like a plate glass window that you find on the plaza. They're of the size that you would expect on a house. And I think that that's what we need here. I shudder what would happen to the East Side District if we begin to have houses that say, oh, well, you know, it has some reminiscence of the Santa Fe style, but it is very contemporary. So I have real problems with this also. I don't really, other than those three elements, I mean, I don't really have a lot of problems with it. It looks like it's basically territorial style with brick coping, and that's fine. And I don't know to what extent the corners are sharp or not sharp. I think that often the drawings don't show that. And I would be curious to hear from the applicant as to that feature. But I have real trouble with this. I think it flies in the face of our style. Thank you.
Member Katz. Member Guida, did you have something further?
As an architect, I'm challenged by this argument on the board that something like this will destroy the character of the district. When we are approving additions and new projects, they are contemporary buildings, period. This is a contemporary building. The one that we approved on the case prior to this is a contemporary building. One is in a faux historic style that we perceive as compliant with the code. When it is not an Adobe building, it doesn't make any real attempts to look like true Adobe or anything like that. It's made out of contemporary products that you buy at Home Depot, and so on and so forth. This is a slightly different and, in my view, far more honest contemporary building that would be built in Santa Fe. And it's done so far more skillfully in terms of the massing, in terms of the wall dominating, and in terms of its interpretation and compliance with our code. I really don't see any argument for denying this building. It is harmonious with the streetscape, and it matches the character of the district. I would approve a much more contemporary building than what's being shown here tonight.
Thank you, Member Guida. Member Katz.
I think the phrase that Member Guida used, the faux historic style, is sort of the crux of this. I mean, I think that's what the ordinance was about, to maintain that style. And he can call it faux, but it's what we call it is real Santa Fe style. And that kind of radical change from what the buildings look like, most of the buildings look like in the district, I think is what we need to not have. I don't think the world will end. I don't think tourists will stop coming to Santa Fe, but I think that the harmony there, I don't know any building around the area there. I'm sure there's one, but that has a garage door like that. And I don't know buildings that have these portals like that, particularly on a residential structure. There's so much about this that kind of, maybe it would fit in a commercial part of town, but this is, and it's, I understand what Anthony's saying. Anthony is a fabulous architect. And when he came on the board, I looked at his site in Los Angeles and all of the buildings he built there, and they're really fabulous buildings, but it's not Santa Fe. And that's what our ordinance is about. And that's why I think we are having these conflicts, because Anthony doesn't want to accept that this is what Santa Fe style is. He says, well, we know what Santa Fe style is, but we can tweak it, we can change it. I mean, it doesn't, it's not white clapboard, it's not cedar shingles like on Cape Cod or something, but I don't think that's what our job is. I think our job is to maintain the harmony of the streetscape, to have houses that all kind of look alike, because that's what the style is. And that's my view of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Larson.
Thank you. I would just say that, even though this is a contemporary building, I don't think that any of us can pretend that we don't see the influx of modernism and the imprint that modernism has made in Santa Fe and the past 50 plus years. I genuinely think that without the adoption of these more modern and contemporary elements, Santa Fe doesn't move into the future. I think that this is not a radical interpretation of Santa Fe style. I think it's very much in keeping with what we've seen done in the modern era, and it's just being done today in the contemporary era. And I don't think that there is anything that says to me that this is like, again, a very drastic departure from Santa Fe style and what we typically approve on the board. I also think that if we were to do a tour of Santa Fe, we would see several of these elements present throughout the East Side District and Downtown District, and that we accept those as a part of our history and our fabric. So I really strongly argue that that approving something like this does not set a negative precedent. Rather, it's a realistic approval that allows the board to sort of accept this these more modern interpretations that are in line with our district ordinance and our code, and that it has been sensitively designed, and that there really isn't anything to critique about it further at this point.
Thank you, Member Larson. Member Roybal.
Thank you. Yeah, after looking at this and the comments made, I agree with Anthony. The only problem I'm having a little bit is the garage door. That just seems to stick out way too much. And having a kind of a frosted glass door like that, that does seem out of character with the district. Otherwise, I have no problem with everything else except for the garage door. Thank you.
Member Roybal. I will take it to public comment. It seems like the members have exhausted their comments at this time. We have Subi Bowden. Hello, Subi, and would you get her sworn in?
Should be allowed.
Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much. My name is Subi Bowden. My mailing address is 333 Montezuma Avenue, Santa Fe, New Mexico. However, I actually have lived for the last 2 years, 3 years, 2 doors away from this site on Alameda Street, on the Anaya's property, just to the east of this site. So I drive by this site anywhere from 2 to 4 to 6 times a day, and I walk back and forth adjacent to this site very often, at least once a week, if not more, as well as spend time in the park across the street. I'd first like to say that as an architect, I find the siting of the building to be very creative. We could have easily received a plan here by code that required a large setback from the stone wall that meant the garage door would have been facing out towards the street. And so as an architect, I appreciate that they instead worked with the zoning department in order to essentially move the front yard to the west side of the property and turns that garage door away from the street. Secondly, I would like to say also that in my driving by this site so many times a day, that there are very large trees in the property to the west. There are also trees continuing along the street on Alameda, and there are large trees to the park. And so my experience, even only living one lot away, is that it's on a curved section of the road. So in driving by, you don't actually have the time or the safety to be looking to the left at this building. So it'll mainly be viewed from the park, or it'll be viewed by people walking by, because it's a high-speed section there of Alameda. I always am worried in turning into my lot whether somebody's going to slam into me from behind, because people drive so quickly on this road. And from the park, it won't be visible from the street. And I think that the real discussion is about the materials of the garage door, because they gave us an option that turns that door as far away from the view as when you are looking at it from the park. And I think that maybe the board works with the staff if there's concern in the voting as to what the materials are of that garage door. But I think the siding, the massing, I greatly appreciate as a neighbor, and want to commend the owners and the architect for their work on the project. Thank you very much.
We have Stephanie Beninato. She's already been sworn in. Stephanie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Stephanie Beninato. I agree with members Katz and Bienvenue. I think that this does not meet the actual code for contemporary Santa Fe style. And it's not like what you think or your preferences, which have been attacked, but here it's really about preferences and how contemporary should somehow be part of this ordinance, when really it's not. This house would look great on the southeast side of Santa Fe, but it actually is absolutely inharmonious with this section of Alameda. And I think that you actually, by law, not by your preference or your background as an architect, as a contemporary architect, and all this stuff about its contemporary house. Yeah, of course, when new house is a new house, but what does it look like? And is it harmonious? And this whole talk about, well, you allow this in the downtown. This isn't a commercial building. This is a residential building. And in my opinion, the entrance on the west side is way over. It's just out of scale. It doesn't feel residential at all. I really wonder why anybody would want so many windows to the west to begin with. And it's not about people driving by. It's not about trees blocking the view. It's about what do you see from the street in front of this house. And as you walk by it, you definitely see the garage doors, which really just stick out, as has been commented by almost everybody. And again, if you're looking at the ordinance as what you're supposed to be looking at, not personal preference or what you would like to see, because if you'd like to see something different, then go to city council and make some proposals. But I believe you're supposed to be looking within a 300 feet of either side. And if you can see a contemporary building like that on this part of Alameda, I sure would like to know about it. And the other thing too is the sconces. I just have to say, when they're pointed down, that's great. But if they have cutouts in them, the light still goes out, and it can be very disturbing to neighbors. So if you get sconces, it would be nice that they don't have openings at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. John has also been sworn in. John, you have the floor. You can unmute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I very much appreciate the way that members are communicating amongst themselves when they have diametrically opposed approaches to their task and responsibility on this board. I do find that unfortunate, because I think Santa Fe is suffering a little bit due to that dynamic. But having said that, this is a very modernistic design. As has been stated, I don't think there is any modernistic building on this streetscape within a third of a mile that's visible of this property. I have very strong kind of aversion to the fact that the garage dominates the footprint from the street and appears to dominate the architecture of the house to a degree, and that's largely because of the door and the way the door is treated. I think that the territorial brick coping is basically, you could call it a nod or a token to territorial. The most disturbing thing here, though, is the use of steel. And I want to say a word, which is my interpretation of recent Santa Fe style, in that I believe when they crafted that part of the code, their goal was to allow for the fact that new materials were coming of age in Santa Fe. And I believe their aim was to continue to encourage harmony in building by melding these materials with Pueblo Revival and the earlier Santa Fe style so that these materials could take the place of the older materials, because admittedly they last longer, etc. They're stronger. But this use of material on this project does nothing but call attention to itself, which to me is completely antithetical to the spirit of the code. The posts that come up and separate and protrude through the roof, I believe, are the undoing of this. Yes, it would look wonderful in Southeast Santa Fe, but on Alameda, this does not look at all compatible or harmonious with the streetscape, and I'll try to keep it short. Thank you, Madam Chair and board members.
Thank you, Mr. Eddy. It appears that we have no one else from the public wishing to comment. I'll take it back to the board members, and I'll quickly make two comments. I agree with members Katz and Benvenue. I think that the project is really, it's really very beautiful, and we had a wonderful presentation, but not here on the east side downtown historic district. I think it is not in harmony. I'm very familiar with this area, not in harmony with the neighborhood. And I also feel that it is in direct opposition to the intent of the ordinance. And we'll see what the rest of the board members decide on this evening. Member Guida.
Madam Chair, I'm ready to make a motion.
Please do.
In case 2021-004-120 HDRB 1023 East Alameda, I move that the board approve the project as submitted, and finding that the project does comply with the district standards. And I would recommend that the applicant return to staff and with a revised design for the garage door that is less glass and perhaps solid.
Is there a second to this motion?
Member Roybal will second. There is a friendly amendment that we also approve the exception of 11-inch, extra 11 inches on the height.
Thank you, buddy. I accept.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Bienvenue,
No.
Member Guida,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
No.
Member Larson,
Yes.
Member Roybal.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Well, wait a second. The chair gets to vote. If she can.
It's not a tie, unless she
It
wants
doesn't
to
need
vote.
to be a tie. If she can make it a tie, her vote is significant.
Okay.
That's the way we've always done it.
I don't think that's appropriate unless it's a
Yeah.
tie.
I agree.
It's not appropriate to do this.
Attorneys?
Yeah, 1 second.
I will ask for the one of the city attorneys to comment on that.
I believe Robert's rules is to break or make a tie.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm just trying to unmute here. Can you hear me? Let me see here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm just having a hard time. And I'm not highly familiar with Robert's rules, but I can try to get that, pull that up very quickly to make a determination about that. I mean, I do think I kind of off the cuff that each member does have the right to vote. But let me see if I can quickly find that provision in Robert's rules. If you'll give me one moment.
Madam Chair, if I may, a comment.
Yes, Member Guida.
I would agree with Member Roybal. This is highly unusual. We have never done this before in my time on the board.
You've done it many times in my time. Thank you.
I know that I have, that the chair has had to vote in case of a tie, but I don't.
In case of a tie, not to create one. Thank you.
Of making a quorum. But I believe with 5 members, we do have a quorum, but I'll wait to see
I
what
don't know the answer.
the attorney has to say.
Can always vote if that individual vote. So it says right there, the chair can always vote that individual vote would affect the result. And that could be the case here, huh?
Yeah.
So
would affect the result. Yeah. Okay, so it ties then, but the chair doesn't have to vote. Should I mute myself?
yeah.
Okay.
Is the city attorney commenting because Attorney Rubalit, because you are muted if you are.
We're looking up the rule here. Okay, can you give us just a moment?
Okay, sure.
Okay. Mr. Prinz and I have done a little bit of research here real quick, and it looks like if the chair's vote would render the motion a tie, the chair can vote, but she doesn't have to. It is her decision.
Oh, great.
I can read you.
A lot of pressure on me, correct?
And I can, do you want me to read you what I'm looking at?
Yes, would you please?
Okay, here are 3 examples of legal chair participation in a close vote and the resulting impact. A motion is on the floor to renovate the kitchen at an organizational headquarters. A motion needs a majority of those present to pass. Without the chair's vote, there are 50 votes. And can you hear me all right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Without the chair's vote, there are 50 votes in the affirmative and 50 votes in the negative. Unless the chair votes, a motion will not pass. The chair thinks food is pretty important stuff. Anything to do with kitchens, I'm in. So he votes yes. The new votes are 51 votes in the affirmative and 50 in the negative. The vote passes. That's not what we're talking about. Example 2. Without the chair's vote, there are 51 votes in the affirmative and 50 votes in the negative. Unless the chair votes, the motion will definitely pass. The chair thinks, you know, we could really use that money to restripe the parking lot, and I'm all about practicality, food can wait, so he votes no. Now the total votes are 51 in the affirmative and 51 in the negative. Because a tied vote is not a passing vote, the motion fails. Example 3, there are 51 votes in the affirmative and 50 votes in the negative. Unless the chair votes, the motion will definitely pass. The chair thinks, gives what the chair is thinking. So he abstains. That means the totals don't change, and there are still 51 votes in the affirmative and 50 votes in the negative. The motion is adopted. So if you're the chair of your organization, use your voting power carefully. In the back of your mind, prioritize impartiality as an important aspect of wise leadership. Whether or not, I have to say, I'm not, this source cites Robert's rules. So that's the first answer I can give you. You want me to continue researching?
Oh, well, yes, because though Frank has said that I have voted in this situation in the past, and even though I am in opposition to the motion that was made, in all my years on the board, I have voted in case of a tie, or I have voted if I need to vote to constitute a quorum so that the vote is legitimate. Frank, did you have something to add? But unmute. Unmute.
Sorry. I think the rule is clear, and I think it was accurately stated by the attorney that the chair can vote to break a tie or to make a tie. And if the chair, feels that the result should be different from what the 3 votes are, I think it's totally appropriate for the chair to vote. And there is one other act, the consequence of the chair making a tie is that we put this over and we have the full board here and we have the 7 board members vote. And that's, if the chair, it's your choice, Madam Chair, as to whether you want to make a tie. But the consequence if you're doing so, I think, would be a very positive thing.
Like board rule could sort of that, but I don't.
Can you give us another moment here?
Yes.
Looking at chapter 14.
In the meantime, Member Roybaugh?
Madam Chairman, you just admitted that in 25 years or 26 years you've been on the board, that this has never happened before. So you're creating a precedent if you do this, and it's not a tie right now where you have to break a tie. So think very clearly of what you're going to do either way.
That could very well be true, but what they are telling me, and if the city attorney agrees with what Member Katz said, that it's a possibility that I could create a tie. If I go ahead and vote, I could either abstain or I could vote to create a tie. So
yes, ma'am. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm disagreeing with what is history of you being on the board. And like I said, you just said that.
I totally understand.
So
I totally understand.
You're going against what 25 or 26 years of you being in the board has not happened before. So I guess it's going to be up to you.
But I have been chair for many. I've been on the board about 30 years. But anyway.
Madam Chair, the Roberts Rules is explicit about saying that if there's one more vote in the affirmative than in the negative without the chair's vote, he or she, I should say, can vote in the negative to create a tie and thus causing the motion to be rejected. We go by the rules, and I think that the city has adopted Robert's rules as the rules, and I think the rule is very clear. Just because you've never done it, I don't think means that you don't follow the rules. Of course, you can choose not to vote. Any of us could abstain, but I think that's
that perhaps I've never done it, but if you're indicating that that is a possibility under Robert's rules, even though I have never done it, it's a possibility that it can be done. Member Guida.
Madam Chair, I agree with Member Roybal. I'm also curious about the kind of level of personal campaigning here for this, for your vote. And this is something that I haven't witnessed before on any case. It seems, you know, while you may have the opportunity to do that if you feel strongly, I agree with Member Roybal that there isn't a precedent for it. There's also not this precedent for this kind of campaigning for a board vote outcome. This is unusual. And I wonder, you know, if the case was the other way, or the decision was the other way, or if we looked back at any other case where your vote could have made a tie. I mean, this seems like a totally different era of board behavior.
Madam Chair, if I may, I here join Mr. Bienvenu in feeling that Mr. Guida is, all I have been doing is really beyond bounds there. All I've been doing is telling you what the rule is. And I've been very explicit that you choose whether you want to vote or not. But the rule allows you to vote and to make a tie. And it's up to you as to how you want to handle it. And I don't think that we should be following, well, I never did that before. I think it's, you know, that's what the rule is. And if you don't have to vote, but you can.
Madam Chairman, if you open this door, then this door is going to be open for other avenues where, again, where there's opposition, but bad opposition, and then you can change that vote also. So it can work both ways. So we have to be very careful.
Chair wanted me to unmute.
Attorney Rubelit, there was an explanation that was given that yes, I can vote to make a tie in per Robert's rules, and do you agree with that?
If I could have just a moment, please.
In the meantime, Mr. Brown wishes to I thought he had his hand up.
This is Rule 45, voting procedures. No, excuse me, it's 44.
Member Guida, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, just an additional comment, Madam Chair. You know, this is, I know we recently had the conversation about how quickly we move through cases and its relationship to equity and to fairness to the public and fairness to board members and city resources. I would just like to kind of voice my concern about that at this point, as we're quite a ways into this case and we have quite a few more to go.
Yes, thank you for saying that.
I believe we have an answer for you.
Yes, please.
We're actually looking at Robert's Rules of Order. Page 196, voting. Chairs are allowed to vote in certain instances when the voting is done by ballot, when the chair's vote would alter the outcome of the election. I'm skipping some language. Assume that a 2/3 vote is needed to pass a specific motion. Here, the chair may vote with the minority to create a tie vote, causing the motion to fail. Suppose that a simple majority is needed to pass a motion. If the chair voted with a majority and the motion was passed, in this case, a chair is allowed to vote because the vote would change the outcome of the election. But it's not necessarily a 2/3 majority, but I think the rule is the chair. I think the chair can vote to create a tie. That's.
And then the motion would.
That would, yeah, essentially fail. The chair can vote to decide the outcome.
So that is your final answer?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I think we see this from a couple of sources, including.
Given the explanation given to me this evening by Robert's rules, I will vote in the negative. I cannot approve the project. It will create a tie.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I don't think that further motions will help us here. I mean, I could move to deny and it would still end up a tie. But I think what we need to do is continue it. And I think the rules anticipate if there is absent members, that's the wise way if you continue it and give the, have it come to the full board.
Are you making a motion to postpone?
I would make a motion to postpone for the full board.
Is there a second to this motion? Is there a second to the motion to postpone? No?
Let me ask let me raise my hand first.
Yes, Member Benvenue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If we do not postpone and and no motion has carried, I'm asking staff and potentially the city attorney now, what happens?
Member, Madam Chair, staff would recommend a postponement. If the board can move to agree on that. And we can work with the applicant a little bit on the design, taking comments from this hearing as feedback. And we recommend that as the best solution. We don't think a denial is necessary based on the comments that we've heard tonight. So we recommend a postponement.
I agree with Nicole's explanation. Member Benvenue?
I'm still just wondering though, if no motion passes, is that deemed a denial that creates the circumstances such as right of appeal, et cetera, of a denial? Or does there need to be an actual motion to deny the application that passes in order to create the right of appeal? Nobody knows.
Paul or attorney?
Michael's here with me. See Michael? Okay. Our belief is that the effect is to create a denial. It was not approved. It needed a majority to be approved. If it wasn't approved, it's denied.
That motion is.
Yeah, it's effectively denied. You don't have an approval.
Okay.
Yeah, but we can also, why could we not postpone it?
We can postpone it, but we have
can.
to have the votes.
But you need a
Right.
motion.
I appreciate that feedback and I will go ahead and second the motion to postpone.
And we have, We have Buddy that wishes to make a comment, or
Madam Chairman, I was going to go ahead and second the postponement. I think at this point, we're deadlocked, and that's the only alternative at this point for staff to work with the applicant and see how this can be modified so it can be approved at a later date. Thank you.
roll call vote, please, for postponement.
Member Bienvenu,
Yes.
Member Guida,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
Yes.
Member Larson,
Member Larson,
I said yes.
thank you, and Member Roybal.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
thank you. And thank you, applicant. We'll see you in the future. The next case is.
May I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Yes, sure.
Chair Rios, this is the applicant, Gabriel Brown. I want to thank you all for your honest and obviously difficult feedback. I do very much appreciate it. I'm not sure that this case deserves any more of your time, but I feel like I've not been given very good guidance here. I have three members who think this is a great design and three members who don't think it all is a good design. And I'm not sure that staff or I have any direction except for the garage door, which is really clear in how to make this more appealing.
I
Thank you,
I
Mrs.
believe staff has sufficient direction. Mr.
Okay.
Brown, we can help you with that.
You feel that you do, Carly?
Yes, 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 Madam Chair.
Thank you. Does that satisfy you, Mr. Brown?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll go on to the next case, which is located at 128 Grant Avenue. This is a non-contributing building. The case number is 2020-004122, Daniel's case.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a correction on the case number. There's an error in my template, which means that 2020 should be 2021. 2021-004122 HDRB. This case concerns 128 Grant Avenue, which is located in the downtown east side historic district behind the first row. We're looking at this building here. It is a non-historic structure constructed in the 1980s and has is mixed use, has office space and a residential space on the top third floor. The applicant is making various changes to the second story facade here to accommodate concerns around fire exit and some other cosmetic window changes. I will go through the items. I've numbered them here. The existing and the proposed are presented. So the first item is the existing double hung window located here, number one, will be widened to install a new double door, which you can see below. Item two is the existing door here will be removed. It will be stuccoed over. Item three is the existing door with side lights located here that will also be removed and stuccoed over. What's happening is that the stairwell behind these doors, which now currently doesn't have a direct access from the second to the third floor, will be made coherent with inside the building so that these doors are no longer needed and this becomes a wall. Item four involves this existing double door, which will be removed, and let's see, it will become a window. Sorry, it will become a single door. Item 5 involves the space behind this pillar. The third post on the balcony, a full height stucco wall which will be centered on the post, which will run between the post and the wall will be constructed. Other than that, these 6 10-inch square ceiling lights will be replaced with slightly larger lights, and the stuccos will be as they are now, 125 La Luz and Colonial White. I can also bring up the photos if the board needs to. I didn't put them in the presentation. The staff recommends approval of the proposed project and finds that it meets the design standards 14-5.2 D9 and 14-5.2E, the design standards. Time for questions.
Let me see if anyone on the board has any questions for you at this time. It appears not. I will ask that the applicant be sworn in. And who is the applicant?
Bill Müller.
Okay. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Hello?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Sibyl Mueller at 130 Candelaria Street, Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Mueller. What do you have to add to what staff just told us?
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. The only thing I have to add is that the remodeled lights will be, they are not visible from the parking lot. We're looking up from the parking lot. It's the second floor that we're doing the renovations, and the lights are currently attached. The existing lights are attached to the sloped ceiling, and the new proposed lights are slightly larger to cover the hole that the existing lights are going to be taken out. Other than that, I don't have, I'm open for questions. I have nothing else to add. The only, one thing I have to add is that we are reusing the doors that we are removing and placing them, like for example, door number 4 at the existing conditions. We are going to reuse them in door number 1. And we are taking for door number 3, at the existing condition, we are taking that off, building a new frame and using it in door number 4. If we can, we will salvage the casing, the casework that's currently there. If not, we will rebuild it the way it already was, the way the casing is currently at all windows and doors. Thank you.
Member Katz?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question about the wall, the perpendicular wall that's going behind post number 3. Am I right that the purpose of that is to not let anybody walk from what would be on the right side, looking at the photo, to the left side of the balcony?
Yes, thank you for the question. Currently, the second floor are offices, and we are proposing to change it to 2 residential units because there are no outdoor spaces for them. That's the only place that they could have a balcony is this existing balcony. So where number 5 is, will be a wall, a stuccoed wall going all the way up to the decking to divide those 2 spaces, those 2 balconies. So on the left side, like left side of 5 will be 1 unit, and off the right side of number 5 will be the other unit.
Okay, I think you've answered my question. I think that the wall will look kind of silly, and I was going to suggest maybe a wrought iron fencing type thing, but I think that you're probably thinking these people would like privacy on their balconies.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, so thank you for solving that for me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the question.
Other members have questions at this point? It appears not. I will go to public comment then. We have John Eddy. Do you wish to comment? You have your hand up. You have been sworn in already. And John, you're muted. I don't know if John's wanting to comment or not. I'll take it to Stephanie Benenato. Stephanie, you may make your comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. It took a minute or two to get the unmute to come up. I appreciate that the owner or architect is going to reuse parts of the doors, recycle the doors into the building. I really do appreciate that. And I don't know, I think it's a pretty massive building already, and it's been there, and the changes are, I think, relatively minor. I do appreciate Member Katz's comment about separating the two units on the balcony. And I'm wondering if, excuse me, like a wooden wall that wouldn't require the wall to go from the first floor up might also suffice to give privacy, but not be so noticeable. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eddy, are you ready to comment? John, did you want to comment? I don't know if John is wanting to comment. He is muted, and I'm going to give him another few seconds. If not, I'm going to take it back to the board.
I've asked him to unmute.
Yeah, I've asked him to unmute.
Okay. But
John, I'm asking you to unmute if you're wishing to comment. If not, I'm going to take it back to the board. Okay. I don't know what's going on with John, but anyway, I will take it back to the board. Member Guida?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm ready to make a motion.
Please do.
In case 2021-004122 HDRB, I move that the board approve the project as submitted per staff's recommendations.
That's full second.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Bienvenue,
Yes.
Member Guida,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
Yes.
Member Larson,
Yes.
Member Roybal.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much. And thank you, applicant.
Thank you.
Go to the next case, which is located at 854 Camino Ranchitos. And the case number is 2021-004124. And Angela, this is your case? May we have your report?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I need to share. Okay. Can you hear me and see my screen?
I can hear you, but there's nothing on the screen.
It says I'm screen sharing.
See it.
can see your screen.
You can?
Yes.
Yeah, we see it.
Okay. 854 Camino Ranchitos is in the downtown and east side historic district. The blue square surrounds the site. This is Camino Ranchitos right here. And for reference, this is Garcia Street here. And the house is accessed its front by the Camino Ranchitos entrance, and it connects over to the Garcia Street access.
Anissa.
This is the entrance on Camino Ranchitos to the property. This is another view of that. This one is looking north. This is looking straight at it towards the west. I have a lot of pictures. This is from inside the site. This is the Garcia side entrance. And this is approaching from Garcia up to the rear of the property where the garage is proposed. Let me give you the 854 Camino Ranchitos is a 5,793 square foot building, non-contributing to the downtown and east side historic district. It was originally built in the 1930s in the Spanish Pueblo style. It has been substantially altered. Non-contributing 889 square foot guest house sits on its southeast corner. The applicant proposes to add a 653 square foot double carport here. It will be located east of the existing house with street-facing exposure. The carport will be styled the same as the house and the casita of wood frame construction. Wooden posts and beams will be carved within adze to smooth the wood beams, vigas, and corbels to match the existing guest house. This is the guest house. Its height is 12 feet, which is within the maximum allowable height in the streetscape, which is 16 feet, 6 inches. Oops. Here's the footprint of the carport. Carport floor plan. This is elevations of the proposed carport. This is from the street out Ranchitos. It's like this. That's without the wall. There is a wall that exists. This is the carport from the south and the west. That's the carport from the north. Moving over to the west side of the lot, the applicant proposes a 14-foot garage to be located at the west port at the rear of the lot, also within the maximum allowable height. The lot fronts Garcia on its western edge, but will not be publicly visible. The proposed garage also will be Spanish Pueblo Revival style with wood frame construction. Its doors will be metal-clad wood to match the existing residence. Benjamin Moore's Dragon Breath 1547. The garage will have 2 windows on its north and south elevation. This is the south elevation. That's the east elevation. Here is the west elevation. The windows will be metal-clad wood with lintels and trim to match the existing house. This is the trim of the existing house. That's Dragon's Breath. This is the stucco cementitious buckskin to match the house. And this is the garage door, which is metal clad, and its color is going to match Dragon Breath. The existing Coyote fencing and gate on the Garcia Street side is 8 feet tall, and the applicant proposes to reduce its height to 6 feet. The applicant proposes to raise an existing non-contributing shed located west of the main house to make room for the garage. Applicant states that the shed was built after 1997, as its footprint does not show on the 1997 survey. A low concrete wall will be erected. This is the shed. This is the concrete wall. Go back to the shed. A low concrete wall will be erected to protect the garage from a draining easement. This is the draining easement. It will be topped to this new 6-foot coyote fence with irregular tops to replicate the existing coyote fence. The garage driveway access from Garcia will be Santa Fe brown base course and pea gravel. Staff recommends approval of the proposal as it complies with the general design standards for all historic districts per 14-5.2 Big D and the design standards of the downtown and east side historic district per section 14-5.2 capital E. That completes my report.
Thank you, Angela. Angela, would you describe the public visibility of this project?
Yes, Chair Rios. This is the public way, Camino Ranchitas, and the carport is proposed to be here, so it will be publicly visible. The garage on the other side of the property is set in from the entrance, and it will not be publicly visible.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Angela, board members, at this time? It appears not. Will the applicant get sworn in, please? And who is the applicant?
James Horn of Spears Horn.
Okay, Mr. Horn, would you get sworn in, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you swear under the penalty of perjury? Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address. Name and address.
James Horn, 1334 Pacheco Street, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87505.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. This is a fairly simple project. What do you have to tell us?
I think Angela covered a lot of it. I just want to say we're working closely with Sharon and Stuart Prentice, which their name was spelled incorrectly in the agenda. It's actually Prentice. And we're working with them in building adventures. And currently they have this house that has no garage or carport or storage. So we are working with them to provide places for cars undercover and garage. And in the process of that, the carport is not really demoing much out there. It sits in the backup space. The garage area has got the sort of coyote fence shed and then a concrete wall that we're going to be cutting down, lowering to get the garage on it, working with a structural engineer to get that dialed in. But we're going to be building on top of part of that and building new foundations and thereby lowering the coyote fence to the 6 feet. And then we're also planning to lower the gate, which is not on a public road or visible. You can just get to it from Garcia to 6 foot high as recommended by staff. And then we're matching all finishes that are there. There's dark brown wood, dark brown windows. There's the stucco that we're matching. So we're sort of working with what's there right now. So, and we're recycling all the coyote fence that we can as we build new coyote fence.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Let me see if board members have any questions for you. It looks like they do not. And I will go to public comment. Let me see, Stephanie Beninato. Stephanie, you can unmute.
Yes, I just did. It takes a couple of seconds for the unmute to come up. Maybe that was part of the problem with John Eddy as well. But I mean, in my own mind, I always wonder why you need a carport in a garage. But I see there's a lot of distance, or it looks like distance between the structure and where they're putting that garage. And I guess garages get used for storage as well. I guess I don't like carports that are right next to the house, but I think I understand this is non-contributing. And some of the questions about the height of the fence was answered. But I also just wanted to make sure that the cross bracing was going to be put to the inside of the fence.
Thank you, Stephanie. Mr. Brown, you wish to comment on this case? Mr. Brown, do you wish to comment?
Yes, hello. This is Elaine Brown.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I didn't realize it was. I thought it was a gentleman that had a previous case before us. Go right ahead.
I'll need to go ahead and swear you in.
Yes. Sworn in.
Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Elaine Brown, 855 El Caminito, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87505. And although my address reads differently, this property, 854 Camino Ranchitos, is immediately adjacent to our property. In fact, the house walls actually sit on, some of the house walls sit on our property line. And my comments are, I did submit a comment online. I don't know if the board has seen that. And I would like to address a few issues about this property. The property has not been occupied by these owners nor the previous owners for quite a few years. Since at minimum May of 2020, there has been work going on at this property. And that is not a problem, but the problem is that because there was never an owner occupying it and seemingly no supervision, the workers have had little to no regard for noise levels and starting hours. Innumerable times I went over there to ask workers to lower music and or wait until 8 a.m. to start work. And that may not be the purview of the historic district design review board, but both of the proposed structures sit as close to property lines as allowed, and both of them are visible from our home. Angela stated that the garage would not be publicly visible. It won't be publicly visible from that, perhaps from that access road on off of Garcia, but it is possible that it will be visible to us from our back property there where we use and entertain and enjoy all the time. So in my comments that I submitted online, I requested that, I don't know what the right word is, but I'm going to call them height poles, should be used to designate so that neighbors can see where these two structures will be built and how high they will be. Both structures are important to us. It's particularly difficult to understand exactly where the garage will be because of that wall down there and that coyote fencing. I also wanted to address the idea of that the carport is called out to have a metal roof. I don't see what the roofing for the garage is called out to be. I know that even dark metal roofs can catch the sun and can cause a lot of glinting. I've experienced that in a northern climate, and I can't imagine what it is here in Santa Fe. So I'd like to understand why a metal roof is being allowed. You know, and then the other comment I would say is that it is a big property and they have the right to build whatever they want. But I think that when you probably saw on your drive-by that this home, it really dominates the landscape due to its height and its mass. And adding so much, I think the neighbors deserve to see what heights and where exactly these structures will be. And that's about it. I appreciate your listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Brown, for your comments. Let me see if board members have questions or comments of any sort. Board members, do you have any questions or comments? It appears not. So I will entertain a motion. Member Katz.
I was a little slow in getting that hand up, Madam Chair. I am a little concerned that when we walked through, we were just impressed this was a very large property and we were not at all conscious of the neighbors. And I am a little concerned that often we do want story poles on structures so we get some idea of how high and what they're going to look like. And I think it may be very appropriate for us to postpone this to have those story poles put up so we can get a view and perhaps get the answer to the questions about the roofing. And I would just be curious as to what the other board members feel on that. I don't, I mean, I could make a motion and I suppose, but.
Any comments in reference to this, to getting this postponed to get story poles up? It appears that
Madam Chair, I will make a motion to postpone in order to have story poles put up.
Both for both the garage and the carport?
For both of them, yes. I mean, I thought this was normal procedure that we got story poles on new structures.
Chair, the applicant would like, has their hand up.
Okay, we're in the middle of a motion.
Okay.
A motion has been made. I will allow the applicant to speak, but is there a second to the motion to postpone? Lack of a second kills the motion. Let me see. Yes, Mr. Horn.
Can you hear me?
Mr. Horn, you have the floor.
Yeah, I wanted to answer the roof question. Both these roofs are modified bitumen roof, tan, and that's on the drawings.
What is the height of the roof of the structures?
They're within the allowable heights.
Yes, can you state those heights?
Yeah, the carport is 12'3", and the garage is 16'6". And we were never asked to do story poles. I would be, we do them on projects, but that's not a requirement that we heard of.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Vice Chair Katz, did you have something further?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I don't.
Member Guida.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, go right ahead.
So in case 2021-004124 HDRBs 854 Camino Ranchitos, I would move that the board approve the project as submitted, recognizing that it meets with the design standards per staff recommendations.
Member Roybal, second.
Member Benvenue, did you have a comment or an amendment?
No, I was going to make a motion and make a comment, but I can wait until after the vote.
Roll call vote, please.
Yes, Member Bienvenue,
Yes.
Member Guida,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
Pass.
Member Larson,
Yes.
Member Roybal,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz.
No.
Thank you. Madam Chair, the motion has been approved.
Thank you. Member Benvenue, did you have something to say?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just on the issue of story poles, I find them extraordinarily helpful in certain cases. If we did have a procedure that they're always required, as they are in some areas, I wouldn't object to that. It could be, I think it's always helpful. But in a case like this, it seems to me that they wouldn't have made a difference because we're within, this application is within the height and setback limitations. So it's really just a question of whether it abides by the design standards. And I'm not sure that how story poles in a case like this would necessarily influence the ultimate decision. But in other cases, such as the famous monopole at St. John's, I think it's very difficult to make an appropriate decision about height exceptions without some kind of story pole structure or cherry picker or some way of visualizing the height. So I would always ask that that be required in those cases.
Thank you. Nicole, can you comment in reference to story poles when they are required?
Madam Chair, it was when I worked here previously, it was common practice for there to be story poles with new structures. I actually, for carports, I don't recall story poles being erected, but definitely for new construction or large additions. And we can talk about that. I agree with Mr. Member Bienvenu's logic, and that new build, you're trying to evaluate the height because there's nothing there. In this case, there's an existing home, and this is well under that height, but we can definitely discuss that.
Thank you, Nicole. We'll go to the last case on the agenda this evening, which is located at 123 Grant. And this is Daniel's case. I don't have a case number on my notes. So you can state the case number. It's okay, 2021-00-4123. Daniel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an application regarding 123 Grant Avenue, which is a 19,000 square foot non-residential structure originally constructed in 1996. This is the 1948 plan and an even older 1870s plan that was part of this military compound. Today it's known as the former Safeway building. Here are three views of it throughout the history of the building. It was originally designed in a so-called generalized Pueblo revival style or appearance, and including a portal with wooden posts and corbels. The actual storefront had a standard modern form. Later, the portal was enclosed, as you can see here, and had further changes. There was a different design again in 1993 that came into this design. There is a significant HCPI that was done in 2021, and in case 2021-003830, the H board heard a status review and decided that the status would be retained as non-contributing. The applicant now returns to apply for the demolition of the structure. In the staff report, I've gone through the demolition standards. There are three standards. One is whether the structure is of historical importance, and based on the HCPI and the decision of the board, I would advise that the structure has a low importance as it is a non-contributing structure. The second criteria is whether it's an essential part of a unique streetscape. Again, I've argued that this is not the case given the historic changes that we've seen in this street over the past decades and centuries. And finally, the state of repair of the structure. The structure is in good repair, and therewith I recommend demolition of the structure. I stand for questions.
Thank you, Daniel, for your report. Yeah, this has gone through many changes. I guess it was the one that I found very interesting, that it was military fortification a long time ago. That was interesting. And the city owned it at one time, and it was a residence. And of course, we all know it as those of us that have lived here a long time remember it as Safeway. So, and then of course it had the foundation of the ownership with the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum connection. Any other questions, board members, or comments? It appears not. And who is the applicant? Can we get the applicant sworn in?
Lauren Trick, I believe, is representing.
Okay, can you get Lauren
Yes.
sworn in?
Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
It's Lauren Trick, 436 West San Francisco Street.
Thank you.
Hi, Lauren. Do you have anything more to add to staff's report?
I knew you were going to ask about schedule and what our thoughts were. We did present to you a preliminary design back in August. We are moving forward to the Planning Commission on November 4th. We have to go through a process of development plan approval with them. And we're planning on coming back to you all with your second look at our proposed design in the spring of next year, once we've completed design development. The archaeology test trenches are beginning in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be doing continuous monitoring of the site during the demolition, should you approve it, and also during excavation when the new building is being constructed. So that just gives you a little bit of highlight of what's happening with us next.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Let's see if anybody has any comments or questions. No comments or questions from board members. Let me see if anybody from the public wants to comment. We have Stephanie Bedonato.
Thank you, Stephanie Bedonato. I just, I mean, I know that this needs to be demolished in order to do the new museum, but what I heard Daniel say was that one of the criteria was about the condition of the building, and then he said it was in good condition. So that seemed a little contradictory. And I just want to say that I really appreciate the O'Keeffe Museum as having a lot of listening sessions around town, and has given out an email, and this was in the Pasatiempo, 2 Pasatiempos ago, gave out an email for people to, I guess, give written comments as well. So I appreciate their wanting input from the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. I'll take it back to the board. Member Benvenu?
I'm prepared to make a motion whenever you're ready to entertain.
I am. Unless
Okay.
Member Roybal has something to say. Buddy, did you have something to say?
No, I was going to make a motion, but I'll let him make a motion and I'll second it.
Member Benvenu.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. In case number 2021-004123, HDRB 123 Grant Avenue, I move that the request for demolition, well, I've moved that findings be entered that the board has taken into consideration the factors set forth in 14-3.14G1 and determined that the structure is not of historical importance It's not an essential part of a unique street section. And even though the structure is in good repair, the other two criteria establish that demolition is appropriate. And I move that staff's recommendation be approved for those reasons.
Member Roybal seconds.
Thank you both. Roll call vote, please.
Member Bienvenue,
Yes.
Member Guida,
Yes.
Vice
Yes.
Member Larson,
Yes.
Member Roybal.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much. And that ends the new business. I do have a question to ask staff. Some of these cases this evening were 2020. Should those have been 2021? Or
Yes, that's correct. That's part of the error on my template, which I intend to correct immediately, so it never happens again.
So
Thank you.
Daniel, all the cases they
It should have all
started
been
with-
2021.
Okay. Thank you. Staff, are there any discussion items that you wish to present this evening? Carly, Nicole, Frank, anybody?
No discussion items.
Thank you. Any matters from the board? Buddy, you have your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We've been trying to replace the park benches at the city on the plaza for a long time. And we finally got the original park benches that were put there approximately 25 years ago. And they've gone before we've gone before for review. Do we know if that has been approved so we can move forward with replacing those beat up benches? And again, these are in kind that will match existing, except they'll be in great shape because after 6 paintings that we've done, they look pretty bad. It's really terrible when you go down to the plaza and look at the park benches.
Nicole, can you answer that? Or Carly?
So the material difference, can you describe that, a wrought iron versus cast aluminum?
Yeah, the big difference is the style is identical in style by the same people who made the other ones. The wrought iron that was made before would rust, or the new structure will not rust. So it'll hold up a lot better. And also there's a little difference in the color, where before it was painted over and over again in a kind of a green color that didn't really go with anything. And I think the new bench that's been presented has a green with kind of a black wash that just gives it a little more historical look. And again, this is going through the Parks Recreation with Melissa McDonald.
And then now ask for consensus from the board or.
Okay, so
Can we have any like feedback from the board in terms of consensus on that? In terms of the application, it seems fine. It's great that it can be cast in the exact same mold. The material will just be a little bit different. So not a vote, but any comment from the board is appreciated.
colors are very similar.
Thank you. Member Guida? Do you have a comment?
Not about this issue. No. I have another comment to make once we move past this.
Does anyone else have a comment in reference to the benches? Buddy, they're going to be replayed. They're going to have the same color, but they're going to be made of something a little bit different.
No, the color is going to be a little different because the color that's there now is just paint that we've accumulated for years and years. The bench is identical as far as looks. So it is an in-kind. I believe the color is a little bit different with a green with a black highlight. They're very attractive, and it'll give the park just a nice update.
Sounds good to me. I don't know. What about anybody else?
I've been working on this for 8 months. I was going to paint them originally, and then of course COVID came in, and they're just in bad shape. They're rusted, and they're It's just very unsightly how they look right now. So we can get this approved, we can move forward through the Parks Division of the city.
I ask a question?
Yes.
Thank you, buddy. I've corresponded with Melissa. Oh, good. There's pictures she's showing us. I just had a question for clarification. Are you replacing wholesale the benches? Are you using any of the existing materials? Or are you recasting?
There's 32 benches and they're all being replaced in kind. So we're not changing any of the looks. That will definitely be changes the coloration of them right now. They're now a green, kind of a yucky green. And this is a green with a black highlight. They look more traditional to a park.
Thanks.
Is this administratively done, Buddy? In the past?
It would be great if the whole board approved it. It could be, I think, administrative. I don't know. This is a historical plaza, so I don't know what the procedure would be. So if it goes before the board, I think it would be better that the staff did not make the recommendation, but that the board did. And again, these are identical in looks by the same manufacturer that did these 25 or 30 years ago.
So do you have to submit a formal application?
Well, I think Melissa McDonald from the Parks Division should have done that already.
Yeah, she did. Are we on mute or no? Oh, no. Yes, Chair Rios, an application was submitted, yes.
So it'll come before the board?
It is, well, it'd be nice if it could. Like I said, we worked on this for so long. It's just a shame not to get it done very quickly because everything is very slow at City Hall.
And again, I have a comment.
Member Katz, what did you say?
I have a comment. I'm sure the look is everything is just fine. My concern would be the tactile feel between aluminum, which can sometimes feel pretty lightweight, and the wrought iron. And I don't know whether there's a difference, but it's something that I think also needs to be considered because you are sitting on these benches. I mean, you are up close and personal with them.
Okay, the big difference between the old and the new, they're still going to have the wooden slats. These have an extra brace where the other ones didn't. So with the extra brace, they'll be as strong as the original where they were cast iron.
It's not strength I was talking about. It's how it feels, whether if you knock your hand against it, it goes ding instead of thud. And I don't know. I mean, it's just an issue. It's an issue that I'm curious about.
I don't know how you're going to ding yourself because you just, I'm sorry, Frank. You just sit on them and they're going to have the wooden slats just like the other ones. You're not going to feel any difference in these at all. None whatsoever.
Good, thanks.
Okay, well,
I'm tired of painting the benches, so let's get this approved so we can get new benches.
Well, I heard Nicole say that, or Carly, one of them said that an application has been started. So I'm just wondering what the proper procedure is. I'm just trying to establish that.
The concern again, it's a historical plaza, so it should go before the historical board.
Okay,
Unless
so,
staff feels that they can make the recommendation on their own, I don't know.
okay, I think that's okay. Then I feel comfortable that you have indicated and that staff has said that it will come before the board.
Okay.
So if they can move as quickly as possible, that would be good. Anything else? I do have a little bit of a comment, and that's I just wanted to say, board members, I want to thank you all for obviously what was expressed tonight. We are a diverse thinking group, and I appreciate that. I think that that diversity brings is something good here on this board. So so that we're not just kind of like rubber stamping everything because we all think alike. We're getting different viewpoints, but always, I think that we need to have respect for one another, whether you're talking to a fellow board member or you're talking to someone from the public. After all, these are our fellow citizens, and I have always felt that it is of utmost importance to be respectful towards the public and towards one another if we can keep that in mind. Thank you all. Anthony, I think you have something to say.
Madam Chair, thank you. And I appreciate you introducing the topic of diversity. I certainly agree. And I guess, my thoughts on tonight's disagreement were moving towards the issue of personal preference. I am acutely aware that we are in charge of interpreting what is an exclusionary zoning ordinance. Exclusionary for, I suppose, some good reasons, to preserve the character of the district and valuable cultural assets in the historic districts that the city of Santa Fe has designated. We know that exclusionary zoning ordinance has also created a great deal of other exclusions, including economic diversity, displacement of a lot of the families that once lived here but can no longer. We've talked about who and who cannot actually participate in this process. And we're also excluding a great deal of diversity in terms of expression. I certainly respect two attorneys on this board and their professional expertise when it comes to the law, knowing that that we do interpret the law. I don't have a strict personal preference in my role here. Like many of the architects who come before us as applicants, I am certainly capable of seeing the merits of different styles, different types of architecture. I was struck by the board's approval of a carport in front of a low wall, just 2 cases after the case that we had so disagreed upon, kind of made the point about contemporary. All buildings that we're looking at here are being contemporary. There's no historic style for carports in Santa Fe that I'm aware of. So all I'm saying is that I intend to be as objective as possible, and my hope is that the board can be as open-minded as possible in light of the current diversity, equity, inclusion issues that we face as a society, and particularly in Santa Fe around this ordinance.
Thank you for your comments, Anthony. Anybody else wishing to comment or bring stuff? Oh, I do have a comment that doesn't have anything to do with that, but has to do with field trips. I do appreciate the field trips, but I believe that COVID cases in Santa Fe are pretty down. If we wear masks, can we go on the van, or is that not acceptable yet?
It's a topic that will continue to be discussed, but at this point, no.
Though they are very, very helpful. I'm glad that we're doing the field trip, even if it's on a caravan. Okay, board members, the next meeting is going to be on September 28th, and we are now adjourned. It is, according to my phone, it is 8:43. Thank you all for your time and service.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, all.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Okay.